A boat travels 3 hours downstream at r miles per hour. On the return trip, the boat travels 5 miles per hour slower and takes 4 hours. What is the distance the boat travels each way? Well, let's take a look at the information given here. We have the time the boat takes to travel downstream, and then its rate during that trip. The rate is the speed. Then on the return trip, we have the rate and the amount of time it takes. And we're asked what is the distance the boat travels each way. Because there's a downstream trip and a return trip, let's assume the distance each way is the same. So that helps. Also, we can probably use the fact that distance equals rate times time because we're given rates and times, huh? So let's organize some of this information first. On the downstream trip, the speed or rate is r miles per hour, and the time it takes is 3 hours. On the return trip, the speed is 5 miles an hour slower, so r minus 5, and the time is 4 hours. And we said the distance of the downstream trip and the distance of the return trip are equal, so we can use that to write an equation. The distance of the downstream trip equals the distance of the return trip. Now let's use the fact that distance equals rate times time to say that the downstream distance is rate r times time 3, or 3r. And on the return trip, rate times time, r minus 5 times 4, or 4 times the quantity r minus 5. And here we notice we have an equation, but there are parentheses over here, so let's use the distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. We take 4 times r is 4r, minus 4 times 5 is 20. So now we have an equation with variables on each side. So we need to collect variables on one side. Notice, if we subtract 4r from each side, we're going to end up with a negative variable on the left. Don't really want to do that, so instead of doing that, let's subtract 3r from each side. On the left side, we get 0. And on the right side, 4r minus 3r is 1r, or r minus 20. Now we should add 20 to each side. On the left side, we get 20. On the right side, we just get r. So we know r is 20. Recall that r was the original rate, so to find the distance, remember both distances are equal, so we can find the distance downstream or the distance upstream, they're both the same, by taking 3 times r, or 3 times the value r equals 20. So let's do that. Take 3r, substitute 20 for r, 3 times 20 is 60. So 60 is the distance the boat travels downstream. And the question in the problem was, what is the distance the boat travels each way? They're both the same, and the answer to the problem is the distance each way is 60 miles.